I've had some pretty interesting conversations about real estate this week. Two conversations stood out to me in particular. Both people wanted me to send them a list of multi-unit properties for sale in their area, which is in Chicago. And shameless plug, if you want me to send you a list of multi-unit properties in the Chicagoland area, feel free to reach out to me and I'll get you that list. But anyway, back to the story. So I sent the list to both people. The first person said that these prices are just too high. There's no way properties should be going for that much in these areas, and they'd rather wait until either interest rates go down or prices go down. The second person was particularly interested in the rental income. Once they compared the rental income to the amount of mortgage they would be paying, they decided that they didn't really feel that it was worth it to buy these buildings. They weren't going to generate enough money from the building. So they thought they were just better off investing their money somewhere else. So we have one person who thinks that prices are just too high, and we have another person who thinks that the rental income from these buildings is not enough to justify paying all that money for these buildings. And they both asked me what I thought. You know what I told them? They're kind of right. I know, as a realtor, you weren't expecting me to say that, were you? Well, in reality, they both made good points. On one hand, home prices haven't exactly gone down, but at the same time, interest rates have pretty much doubled over the past year. Also, since home prices haven't gone down and interest rates have gotten more expensive, rental income isn't going to exactly generate a ton of cash flow for you every month. For example, if you buy a 2-unit in the Chicago area and you rent out both units, you'd be lucky if that rental income covers your mortgage and all of the expenses. So if that's the case, then what's the point of even buying multifamily property or even buying rental property in the first place? Well, let me break down for you in this video the pros and the cons of buying multi-unit property in today's market. And by the way, don't forget to smash that like and that subscribe button and let me know in the comments any real estate questions you might have for me. Let's go over the pros and cons of buying multifamily property in today's real estate market. Now, me personally, I always like to start with the bad news first, so let's go with the cons. The big downside of buying rental property in today's market is that you're going to have to save up a good chunk of money to be able to buy the property, but at the same time, you aren't going to get a ton of passive income or a ton of cash flow from that property monthly. Between saving the money for the down payment of the property, as well as saving enough money to cover the closing costs on top of the down payment to buy the property, you're easily going to have to save over $10,000 in order to buy some real estate. Here's a quick example of how much you would need to save in order to buy some real estate. So let's say you want to buy a 2-unit property for $250,000. You're going to need to save the down payment for that, which is 3.5% of the purchase price, and you're going to need to save closing costs, which is another 3% of the purchase price. So if you add that together, that means you're going to need to save 6.5% of the purchase price in order to buy that property, which comes out to over $16,000. At the same time, while you're putting up all this money, you're not exactly going to get a huge return on your investment as far as passive income or as far as monthly cash. Like I mentioned before, if you rent out a 2-unit building, if you fully rent it out, both units, you'll most likely only make enough money to be able to cover that mortgage as well as the expenses. If you live in one unit and rent out the other, the rental income is most likely just going to cover a portion of your mortgage, and you'll end up paying about the same amount that you would be paying if you were to rent out a similar apartment in another property. That means you're pretty much paying the same amount whether you're just renting out an apartment or you own the building. Once you own the building, you now have the responsibility to maintain the building, which means any repairs that come up, they're your responsibility. You have to take care of it. Since you're the one responsible to maintain the building, you now have to be disciplined enough to make sure that you save up enough money or put enough money to the side to take care of any repairs that might arise. That's right. If that roof starts leaking, it's your responsibility to fix it. If the furnace goes bad, it's your responsibility. So if you were looking for a way to invest your money that'll generate some money for you fast, this might not be the best investment strategy for you. There may be other options out there that are better. Now, if you think about it, if you're paying around the same money when you rent and when you buy, why in the world would you actually buy it and take on all that responsibility? Well, let's look at the pros of owning rental property. The first advantage to owning rental property are the tax write-offs. When you own rental property, a good portion of your mortgage is going to go toward property taxes. The good news is that you can write off those property taxes on your income. Property taxes are pretty high in Illinois, so that can save you a good chunk of money during tax time. Also, with rental property, you can actually write off any repairs that you make as well, since it's an income-producing property. If you live in the building, the amount of the repairs you can write off depends on how much of the property you rent out. For example, if it's a 2-unit building where you live in one unit and rent out the other, you can write off 50% of the repairs. This can really come in handy over the years because making repairs and upgrades to the building adds to the value of the property, which brings me to the second advantage of owning rental property: equity. Equity is the value of your property minus the amount of money that you owe on it. The more you pay off the mortgage month after month, the more you pay off that money that you owe, which means the more equity you gain in the building. If you also continuously upgrade your property over the years, as well as make repairs to your property, that adds to the value, which in turn adds to your equity as well. I know equity may seem boring at first. It's not like you're getting the cash in your hand right now. However, equity is the main tool that a lot of people use to really build generational wealth. Here's an example of how much equity you can build up if you just stick with it over the years. Now, for this example, we're going to use a property with the price of $300,000. The down payment is going to be 3.5% at an interest rate of 6.76. Then we're going to go down here. The property taxes will be $350 a month, which comes out to $4,200 a year. And then we've also included the homeowner's insurance and the PMI. So if you do all that, you're going to be paying around $2,400 a month. And this is the breakdown over here of that mortgage payment. So I know you're thinking, well, right now we aren't even going to include the rental income. We're just going to look at the building without the rental income. So here's how much equity you'll be saving over the years. So let's go to the amortization calendar. Right here you see the loan amount, which is the $300,000 minus the down payment. Now here at the bottom of the graph you'll see May 2023. Let's see what these numbers look like 5 years from now. So that'd be 2028. So let's scroll over there. March, April, May. And you'll see at the bottom, principal paid is $18,000. That's how much money you saved up over the years, just paying that mortgage off. That's all you've been doing, and now you've increased your equity by $18,000. Now you have the interest paid, which is a lot of money, but you're writing all that off on your taxes anyway. Now let's go to 10 years from now, which is May 2020 or May 2033. Let's see if we could get it. Why is this so hard? May 2033. You'll be at principal paid almost $43,000 over 10 years. And that's just paying your mortgage. That's all you've been doing this entire time. Now, I know there are some of you out there saying that $2,400, that's a lot of money to pay per month. I'd rather rent because my rent will be a lot less than this mortgage. Well, remember, we're talking about rental property. We're talking about a 2-unit or a 3-unit. So let's say for this example, it's just a 2-unit and you're renting out the second unit for, let's say, $1,200. That means that your tenant is paying $1,200 of this mortgage and you just have to come up with the other $1,200 pretty much. So you're doing that, and the entire time you're still building up that equity and you're still saving almost $43,000 over the next 10 years. So, and also remember, this is assuming that the property just stays at the same price of $300,000. We all know 10 years from now, this property is going to be worth a lot more than $300,000. On top of everything I've just mentioned, remember that you're also getting monthly rental income that you're using to help pay off the mortgage and the property taxes, which is in turn helping you to build equity, and you're getting tax write-offs from those property taxes. Once you put that all together, you realize that you're going to start building wealth and saving up money pretty fast. If you ever decide to sell, you'd be able to walk away with a nice size check versus if you were just renting out a similar property, you're leaving with nothing. Or if you want to keep it going and buy even more real estate, you can use the equity you've saved up in your building as a down payment to pay for another building. And keep going, rinse and repeat. That's how you really build wealth.